Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel, where of course we're giving you all the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. It's that time of year really where clubs, Albion included, release their released and retained list, and that's something that we're going to be having a little look through today, taking a look at who Albion have chosen to extend the deals of, youngsters that they've decided to try and keep on, and senior players that they've also decided to let go. But yeah, those who are coming to the end of their deals will be let go, and the club will also tell us which of those are they going to try and stick around. In fairness, this one doesn't bring many surprises, I'm sure. I know I'm a bit late to this because, of course, John Swift signing meant a bit of the video schedule was a little bit delayed because we kind of wanted to get you that video as quickly as possible so you can know as much about John Swift as you possibly could. But in terms of released and retained list, we've got plenty to look forward to and plenty to dive through, really, with who's staying and who's going at the club. But I will say there's not many surprises with it. There's not many surprises at all. I think that the ones that are going are fairly clear. But the ones maybe that are going out, the youngsters, maybe a little bit of confusion with them, and maybe we could have a look at them as well. But yeah, but for all your latest transfer news here in video format, make sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. It's the one-stop shop for all your Albion transfer news over the summer. And make sure you comment your thoughts on the released and retained list. Who would you have preferred to keep, and who do you think should have gone that hasn't? Let's get straight into it. You're watching the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. For match previews, match day vlogs, match reactions and more, make sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. So let's crack on. Let's start off with those senior players that, of course, have left Albion. Of course, there's a few of them, I think, that aren't really a surprise. In terms of these ones, I think that we all kind of knew who was leaving with those and who was staying around. I think it was pretty clear from reporters and whatnot that these players were going to be the ones to leave. So let's start with the statement, I suppose, from Albion. You know, West Bromwich Albion can confirm their released and retained list following the conclusion of the 21-22 campaign. 3 senior players will be leaving the Hawthorns this summer. So let's start with goalkeeper Sam Johnstone, who has left the club. Of course, that was pretty clear because we know that he was looking to move on to pastures greener, really, and move on to something different and move on to something else that he considers to be better. I'm a bit confused at the Twitter reaction to this, because for me, a goalkeeper that spent time with the club, spent probably about 4 or 5 years with the club, 167 appearances, 1 championship promotion. I'd have thought that there would have been a better reaction. I'm not condemning the fact that he's had a pretty awful season last season, along with the rest of the squad. But 1 championship promotion, 167 appearances. I find it a little bit baffling the way that fans are completely discrediting all of his achievements at the club and are beginning to sort of wash their hands with him completely because he doesn't want to stay at the club. I think that we have to appreciate what he has done. I'm not again dismissing the fact that he's had a pretty average season last season like the rest of the squad, but I do think that he has been a good servant and has played quite a lot of games for us and done very well last season. Not last season, but you know, the one in the Premier League under Sam Allardyce, where he kept us in a lot of those games and prevented us from being a real embarrassment in the Premier League. But of course, he's leaving, and I understand people's anger for that. But yeah, of course, he earned an England call-up, which sent him to Euro 2020, which was, of course, a big achievement for him. It meant we had an Albion player at the tournament to cheer on, even though he didn't get on the pitch, but did play in a friendly game beforehand, played in the World Cup qualifier, afterwards. He was supporters and players player of the season in 2020-21. And yeah, he's off. I think we did offer him a new contract. We've tried to work it out, but I think it's always been pretty clear that Johnstone wants to leave. So yeah, I think that's fair to say for Johnstone that he was pretty up for leaving from the get-go, from the moment he probably realised his contract was expiring. So I think we all know that, and we all know that was going to be the case with him. But where might he go? I think Crystal Palace have been in talks with him, and there's been quite positive talks with them. They've got a fairly meh goalkeeping department. Vincent Higuaita, who's 35 years old. Jack Butland, is he really going to cut it at the Premier League level again? But Sam Johnstone could get a starting place there. Southampton would like him as well. That's interesting too. But yeah, I think he's definitely going to go and find a Premier League club. But I think a few of them are starting to take a look at him and think maybe not, because Spurs were supposed to be heavily interested in him to replace or be second string to Hugo Lloris, but that didn't go through. So I think maybe he needs to play his cards right and get the right move. But yeah, of course, all the best to Sam Johnstone, because of course he has been a great servant for the club and has done very well throughout his time here overall. And I think, putting last season aside, I think that we do appreciate his services for the club. But moving on to the next senior release player, and that's Romaine Sawyers, and that was probably the most debatable one over him leaving and stuff. So 64 appearances, one championship promotion, of course, same one as Sam Johnstone. 91% pass accuracy during that season, which I still think is amazing for a player playing in centre midfield where there's so much pressure around him. Of course, been on loan at Stoke City for the previous campaign, did all right with them when he wasn't injured, but of course, a homegrown player, came through our academy, left Walsall, Brentford, back to us. So yeah, I think Sawyers is a player that I think we kind of wanted to keep hold of in a way, but I think the squad is in need of a refresh, and I think bringing back those players that I suppose Romaine did cause angst amongst the fan base whilst we were in the Premier League, because he's always got that sort of languid style, and yeah, doesn't look like he's really putting a lot of effort in, which I'm sure he is, because he's a homegrown, he's an Albion fan, he loves the club, and I'm sure he would. But of course, I think it's time for that refresh. But could he have done a job? Because Steve Bruce has talked him up in press conference, talked about how effective he is at championship level, and said that he wouldn't have if Stoke had asked for Sawyers to play against Albion earlier in the season, then he wouldn't have let him, because he thinks Romaine Sawyers is a top quality player, and he wouldn't have wanted him to play against them. But yeah, I think Sawyers is a good player, and I think that we have to remember that he is a top quality championship midfielder. But is he what we need at the moment? Is he that we've got a lot of recyclers of the possession? But potentially we could have pushed him into a number 8 role. Potentially we could have moved him forward, and he could have progressed the ball forwards. But there's no real evidence in the stats really that Romaine has done that in his career really very much. So I'd probably say it's the right decision, but I maybe would have liked to have seen him given another chance. But I think we've got a lot of midfielders who can recycle possession now. We've got John Swift now, who can progress the ball by the looks of things, by the stats and by the clips that I've watched of him, that he is capable of moving the ball forward. So yeah, I think it's definitely the case, and I think John Swift could do that job. But Romaine Sawyers, of course, leaving Albion, which of course is a shame. Boyhood Albion fan, and that's a shame to see. But we wish him, of course, all the best as well. Andy Carroll is the last of the senior players, I suppose, to leave the club. 15 appearances, 3 goals versus Bournemouth, Blackpool and Huddersfield this season. And for effort, he was absolutely top marks. I'm really pleased that he was the shining light in the season. I didn't like him before he came. I will level with you. I didn't like him before we came. I thought that he was a bit of a, just a bit of a bulky striker, pushes players around, kicks some players up in the air and whatnot. Yeah, I think that's difficult to kind of justify now, because he is that, but he is also a person who, when he goes onto the pitch, he puts every ounce of effort in. He puts every single morsel of his effort in. He puts everything he can into the game, and I think that he's a player that we missed last season throughout the time that he wasn't there. A player that gives everything for the shirt, and I think we missed probably 8 or 9 of those in our team. And I think Andy Carroll was the one real shining light, along with Gardner Hickman. I'd probably say maybe a bit of Dara O'Shea when he came back. But yeah, I think Andy Carroll's a player that we needed last season a bit earlier than we had him. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what he does next with his career. I get what Steve Bruce has said about him dominating the play style, because he does. He's Andy Carroll. He's not going to start chasing him behind. He's not going to be tippy-tapping in the middle of the park with some link-up play. He is a good footballer. Let's remember that. Ability-wise, heading-wise, definitely he's one of the better strikers in this division. But his legs, his pace mean that he's maybe some injuries. Although he has proved himself for injuries this season, I would have liked to have seen him kept on. But the wages he was demanding were top championship wages, top first-choice striker wages, and I don't think he's that. So we wish Andy Carroll the best in the future. We enjoyed the game that he played against Bournemouth, Fulham. He was a really massive part of that. Just Bournemouth, really. He was a massive part of that. The Huddersfield game where he helped us to come back. So, yeah, I think it's difficult for Carroll, and I'm hoping that he finds another club quickly. But it's a shame to see him out the door as well, because, of course, he gave us so much as supporters last season, and gave us a bit of a hope to cling on, because we knew that there was a player giving 100% on the pitch. But onto some youngsters. I'll just read them out and then talk through a couple of the points out of these. Jamie Soule has been released. Owen Windsor, Ario Teixeira, Kevin Joshua, Zach Delaney, Mark Chahidi, Mackenzie Lamb, Leo Makisa and Dan Ngoma have all been released from Albion. A couple of those. Jamie Soule, Owen Windsor, of course, gone out on loan last season. Owen went to Carlisle. Jamie went to Cheltenham Town. Both, I think Owen scored on his debut, but made a couple of appearances after that and then didn't play again. Jamie Soule didn't play at Cheltenham, so I suppose it's their time to find. They need to be playing at their age. I think they're about 20, 21. I think that at their age they need to be playing some consistent football. And I think, you know, if they just keep getting sent out on loan, it's a little bit pointless for them having the they'll want to be playing first team football regularly. Of course, Jamie Soule, 21 years old, and Owen Windsor I think he's about the same age really. 19 actually, a little bit younger, but I think if they're not playing first team football or not breaking into a lone first team, then maybe it's time for them to move on and try and find something else. Ario Chikshare is a bit of a weird one. Of course, he's quite a small lad, but he's definitely got technical ability and played very well in the PL Cup final. So a little bit of a shame to see him gone. Can't really comment on any of the others because I haven't really seen them, if I'm honest. But those who've been offered contracts: Ted Khan, Reyes Cleary, Josh Shaw, Samuel Okoka, Reece Hall as well. Ted Khan, of course, really good in the PL Cup final, played very well in the penalty shootout specifically. Reyes Cleary, of course, a big name, one that Albion want to see playing. Albion fans want to see playing. He, I think, has got all intents and purposes to move on from Albion. I think he believes that he's got better offers elsewhere, and if he has, fair play to him, because that's the way it is. He's not ready for the first team yet. Let's face that as well. Those who maybe he would have been worth a shot this season, giving him a chance, but he's definitely not ready for that first team spot, so he's going to have to wait. But I think he's going to have to wait even longer elsewhere. I think there is maybe a pathway to the first team if he would have stayed patient, but I think he's very much off and very much out the way now. Josh Shaw and Samuel Okoka and Reece Hall, I'm not sure I can comment on them, but of course all the youngsters who have been released as well, we wish the very best to. But yeah, we hope that the ones that have offered contracts can stick around, because there's obviously a reason we've offered them the contracts, and yeah, they've clearly got high potential. And I will obviously Ted Khan, that what I've seen of him has been good. Reyes Cleary, what I've seen of him has been good as well. So yeah, offered contracts, and hopefully we can see them back at the Hawthorns next season for another year. But yeah, that's Albion's released and retained list for the 21-22 season. Apologies, it's a bit late as well. I wanted to get that John Smith video out to you, but there's plenty of content coming next week on the channel. Some interesting videos coming with a couple of guests. So yeah, look forward to that. Make sure you comment your thoughts on the released and retained list down below. Who do you think we should have kept? Who do you think should have left instead? Right, we'll see you in the next one. Make sure you subscribe, and goodbye.